the minute you shift your framework towards this idea that every single symbol that you see in your dream, every single image or experience is telling you something, right? And is not accidental. Then your dreams become completely different because you're dealing with information that becomes very valuable.
Hello, and welcome back to Seek the Joy podcast. Happy Seek the Joy Tuesday. I'm your host, Sydney Weiss, and I am really today's episode feels like a product of an unintentional yet intentional manifestation, because it was the beginning of the summer and I've been having weird, crazy dreams, at least for the last year or so. And I was thinking about how I really wanted to have a conversation on the podcast with someone about our dreams and dream interpretation, because I find it all to be so fascinating. And then back in July, Athena Laz ends up in my inbox and I was like, oh my God. Okay, yes, we are having this conversation. So this episode does not disappoint. It is a really good conversation. And before I even tell you about it, I want to share a little bit more about Athena Laz. So she is a depth psychologist, dream teacher, and fourth generation intuitive. Her debut book, Alchemy of Your Dreams, A Modern Guide to the Ancient Art of Lucid Dreaming, is out now. And this conversation, we really dive into why our dreams are significant, what happens when we dream, the role of intention in dreaming, and Athena shares her tips for strengthening our ability to recall our dreams. We dive into the connection between dreams and intuition, why dreaming can actually uncover areas in our life where we might need more help and assistance, and Athena shares too how our dreams can help us create a pathway forward. I very unintentionally shared one of my dreams in today's new episode, and Athena helps me interpret it in a way that I never would have. And then we dive into how we can better understand the symbols that appear in our dreams and the role of dreaming in exploring the world of consciousness. Plus, we chat about lucid dreaming, what it feels like, what it is, how it can help us, the connection between dreams and joy, Athena's biggest dream, and so much more. One of the reasons why I do this podcast is because I really want you to be able to live a happier, more joyful, and just ease-filled life. And so that's why I'm so happy to share that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. The last year and a half, there is no doubt it's been difficult. And that's why I think now more than ever, it's important that we have reliable resources that we can turn to. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. So this is how it works. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. It's easy and free to change counselors if you don't think the person you're matched with is a good fit. And this service is available for people worldwide too. BetterHelp also offers a broad range of expertise in their counselor network, so you'll get timely and thoughtful responses, and you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions too. So, as a listener of Seek the Joy podcast, you will get 10% off your first month by going to BetterHelp.com/seekthejoy. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/seekthejoy. The link will also be included in our show notes. Athena has helped thousands of people really worldwide discover the depths of their psyche and spirit through the medium of dreams, symbols, metaphor, and image. And as she shares in today's new episode, that is really the language of the soul. And she's also this incredible avid lucid dream teacher. So there is so much to know and learn from Athena. And I'm so grateful for today's conversation and all the wisdom and gems that she dropped. It really left such a profound impact on me. And as always, I can't wait to hear what you think about this one. So make sure to join the conversation on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are at Seek the Joy Podcast everywhere. Hit follow or subscribe wherever it is you're tuning in right now. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, you name it. Make sure you hit follow so that you never miss an episode. And Athena, thank you for just such a wonderful conversation. So without further ado, let's dive into this one. Really a conversation on intuitive dreaming and lucid dreaming and all the beauty that comes from it with Athena Laz. Athena, Athena, I'm excited to sit down with you because, so this is actually kind of funny. At the beginning of the summer, I was thinking to myself how I would love to have a conversation with somebody about dreams and symbolism in our dreams and how we really work out, I think, a lot of our day-to-day lives, in our dreams. And then an email came through from your team about you and your book. And I was like, wait a second, this is very exciting. So thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. And I love that it happened in a very serendipitous way.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So I want to start off, maybe, could we talk a little bit about your journey? I know you're a fourth generation intuitive. You really dove into this world of dreams. Where did all of this start for you?
So from a very young age, I had a deep connection with my dreams, and I paid attention to my dreams as a child. It was just something that I did. It didn't come really from my family, I don't think, or maybe I don't really remember that accurately. But I just always kind of remembered my dreams and was able to, one, work through a lot of stuff through my dreams. And then also I felt like I got very valuable information and sometimes insights that were so, extraordinary that there was no way that it could just be this sort of linear reality. So my dreams have always been, I've been very connected to dreaming, except for when I was in my 20s, which is kind of something I talk about in the book, right? And well, my very early 20s, I was quite lost in my life. So it's probably the only period where I didn't actively sort of wake up and pay attention to my dreams, but at the same time, my dreams were crazy during that period in my life, obviously to try and get my attention. So that's really like the beginning pathway for me. And then later, when I sort of figured out what I wanted to do, what my talents were, where I could fit in the world, I decided I wanted to study psychology. I wanted to follow a pathway where I could learn from people who spent, many years discovering what the psyche is, what it means to dive into inner world symbolism, and just all sorts of things. And at the same time, though, I worked in a very esoteric shop just to make money, and my whole worldview expanded during that time because I was going to university and reading about Freud and Winnicott and all these like really sort of old school psychologists, but then at the same time I was going to work and I was reading books, from like Ramdas and Osho and all these other thinkers. So it was just a very interesting period in my life, and all of that kind of weaves back into dreaming because it's all about consciousness, really.
I think it's really interesting what you just shared, that in your 20s, like you're all over the place, I think, as most of us are, but that your dreams were really trying to communicate something to you. And I'm curious about that piece because our dreams are obviously significant, but I don't think we always recognize that or realize that. So to start, why are dreams so significant? What role do they really play? In terms of also what you just shared about this element of consciousness, why are dreams significant in that way?
They're so significant because every night our dreams speak to us personally about where we find ourselves in our lives. And they speak to us about not just the present moment, but the past and the future. And so in the modern world, we're very disconnected from our dreams. And, a lot of the time it's something we view the dream world as something that's just like this crazy thing that happens at night, and then you wake up and that's your real life.
Yeah.
But every single ancient wisdom tradition speaks to dreaming as a pathway to wholeness, well-being, connection, and insight. And so I think it's just something, I really feel like it's something that modern day people need to reconnect with in order to experience greater creativity, problem solve, gain insight through their dreams, right? So basically dreams can do a lot for you, just it really depends where you at.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting what you said, like the dreaming leads to greater, or understanding your dreams lead to greater wholeness and creativity and depth of understanding for you. Because I can't tell you like how many dreams I've had where I'll wake up and it doesn't make sense. Like the symbols in the dream are weird. It's
Yeah.
obviously, it doesn't make sense with my day-to-day waking life. But the more I think about it, I think, okay, that's a symbol for this, or this is trying to tell me I'm looking for something of this nature, or I'm supposed to look this way. It's like you have to almost take a moment with yourself, I think, after you dream, to sit with it, assuming you remember the dream, to sort of begin that like pathway to interpretation and understanding. And I know this is something you talk about in the book because, I mean, when we dream, we've got all kind of crazy symbols and things that pop up.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you're saying. So you're having these, and I think we all do. We have these dreams.
Yeah.
These symbols seem so random,
So
right?
random sometimes. Yeah.
Like just so weird. And they never cease. My dreams never cease to amaze me. Actually, what the imagery can come up, right? What kind of imagery can come up? But my feeling of it is this: the minute you shift your framework towards this idea that every single symbol that you see in your dream, every single image or experience is telling you something, right? And is not accidental, then your dreams become completely different because you're dealing with information that becomes very valuable. And your psyche, our psyches, and you can look at that word in a very holistic way, which we're actually looking at the soul here. Our souls are intrinsically whole, they're intrinsically well, they know what to provide, it knows what to provide us to a pathway of well-being and whatever it is in our waking life. So the symbol you might need, for example, say we both have a dream of an apple, right? It's actually quite an ordinary symbol. We wouldn't think too much of it. But an apple as an image has a lot of collective ideas around it. If you think about Adam and Eve, the apple, in that way, if you're allergic to an apple and you dream of an apple, the dream meaning becomes entirely different. Or if you're just someone who really loves apples, then your dream means something completely different. Right? So the symbols, when you're getting these random symbols, it's really to ask yourself this question: like, why this symbol, the story? Because it's not just like, if you take one symbol by itself, it might not mean anything. But if you look at your dream as a whole, the picture becomes a bit more clear. So the question to ask is, why this image in this way right now?
That's what I was going to ask you, because I think for a lot of us, when we have dreams that we remember, and I'm curious, I also wanted to ask you, do we all dream every night? Because I think some nights I'll wake up in the morning and I'll think I didn't dream at all, but maybe I did. The recall of that dream might just not be happening. But I think we have these symbols or these metaphors or these common dreams that show up all the time. And so then this process of beginning to understand it sounds like for you, you're saying it's about looking at everything combined and together. And I'm curious, like, what role intuition plays with beginning to understand your dreams too. Because for a lot of us, we're on this journey of spirituality and tapping into our intuition. And as our dreams, I think, become more pronounced or we remember them more, it's like, okay, like, how do I start to actually really interpret this?
Right. I love that question. Such a great question, right? Intuition and dreams to me are the same thing. In a way, because the language of it is similar. With your intuition, if you become very connected to your own form of intuition, you'll know how to receive insight in the way that works for you. And then generally what happens, like say, you get a gut instinct. The more you listen to that gut instinct, the more information you get, because you've learned to trust that faculty, right? That way of listening. And it's symbolic most of the time. It can, you can get intuitive insights. That depends on who you are, really, but that they can involve image or sounds or all sorts of things. In dreams, it's the same thing. It's a language that's really, and it's an intuitive language that you almost need to learn so that you can gain the insight. And it's a language, unless you're lucid dreaming, where it is a language of symbol and metaphor and instinct and intuition. And it's brilliant because that's the idea. The idea is to bring the two together, right?
Yeah.
So you use your dream information and then you use your intuition. And what you're doing is you're strengthening the same process. I almost want to say drive, but it's not a drive. I don't know what
it's almost like a muscle, it sounds like.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we'll call it a muscle, whatever it is. You're strengthening that process. I mean, I guess in psychological language, we'd say it's an intrapsychic process, right? It's a fancy word for it, but really it's just the thing that is intangible.
Yeah.
We can't explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And as for people dreaming, everyone dreams actually all the time. It's been proven, but it's the recall thing. Most people struggle to recall their dreams. And even if you're very good at recalling your dreams, you can go through patches where you just don't. And I think that's especially if you're feeling quite tired or if you're feeling a bit emotionally, if something's happened and you're feeling a bit emotionally tired, sometimes that just also plays into it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, so even if we don't remember our dreams, we're dreaming at night. And okay, so what if someone is listening to this and they're like, okay, but like I haven't been able to remember my dreams in, X amount of time. Do you have any thoughts or insights or tips maybe on how to begin to strengthen maybe your ability to recall those dreams? Are there things that you share with people if they're really interested in doing so, but they just haven't been able to?
Sure. So the main thing that I would say is I would tell the person who's struggling to remember their dreams to try and think back to the last dream they remembered, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go and write that down in a journal and try and do something with that dream. So say, for example, they have a dream, even if it's not what a person would deem a positive dream. So say, even if it's a nightmare or, it's a hard dream, it feels hard to write it down and then to do something with the dream. So if it's a dream like where you out and you're buying a handbag and, something just like kind of every day, I would then go out and do an action like that in my waking life. And so that's one way of doing it, because what you're really doing there is you're saying like, okay, I'm ready to now reactivate my connection, rekindle my connection to this aspect of my life. And it's very much like what we do when we set goals or if we set intentions, right? You want to create something in your life, you want to manifest something in your life, you're really applying all your energy and your attention towards one thing. And it's the same with dreaming.
Yeah.
And then there are very pragmatic things that you can do as well, just like as you wake up in the morning, try not physically move your body. And that's been proven to help store memory, dreams more solidly into memory. Right? And journaling is super, super helpful. The more you do it, the more you recall your dreams.
Yeah. I've had some times, and I'm curious if this plays a role in it or if I'm just crazy, but I've had some times where I've said to myself before I go to sleep at night, okay, I really, really want to remember my dreams in the morning. And when I've done that, I actually remember them more profoundly. I actually did that last night because I wanted to see if I could remember my dreams this morning. So is that sense of like intention or being very mindful about wanting to remember your dreams, does that play a role in it at all? I'm so curious about that because I've done that sometimes and it kind of works. It's weird.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm keen to hear if you did remember your dream.
Oh, I did. And it was a weird one. It was so weird. I had two that I remember. My grandmother just recently passed away. So I had a dream that I was very aware of her passing. She didn't visit me. There wasn't anything of that nature. Yeah. And then somehow it moved into, I was getting Botox. I've never gotten Botox. I've never had interest in Botox. And I was at this doctor's office and he was kind of putting the dots on my head, my face where he was going to put the Botox. And I was with my dad, which is such a strange person to go with me to go get Botox. Right. And in this dream, I'm not feeling very good or comfortable with the idea of getting so much Botox. And I was expressing this discomfort and apprehension to this doctor who then turned it on me and felt like I was questioning his authority or questioning his professionalism. And my dad and I were talking about it on the side. And in the dream, I said to my dad, do you feel like he's being rude to you? And my dad said back to me, yeah, I do. I think if we just pack up quietly and leave, he won't even notice. And then I woke up. And the first thought I had when I woke up from that dream was, maybe there's an aspect of me that feels like someone else is playing a role in how I present myself or how I show up in the world. And I'm looking to take greater ownership of that. This is like 5 o'clock in the morning and I wrote the whole thing down. And I was like, I've never had a dream about Botox. I've never had a dream like this before, but it was really weird. It was like a super bizarre dream. I haven't even told my dad about this dream yet, but it's interesting, like the symbol of a doctor, like an authority figure, your parent, your father, doing something to your face. It was weird.
But it's amazing, firstly, that you remembered it so powerfully. And the dream incubation is kind of what you did by setting the intention there, right?
Yeah.
But for me, Botox is also so incredible because it's literally numbs you from your feelings, right?
Oh, that's actually interesting too.
Right? You can't feel. And so like a doctor or someone telling you not to feel or being overwhelmed by how you feel, right? Because grief is enormous.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that your dad's saying, let's just leave together, I would imagine that your dad is probably someone quite supportive, or you see him as someone supportive, or maybe there's an aspect of yourself in that way. So whatever, it's just to kind of feel your feelings. That's what I would.
Wow. Okay. So interesting. My interpretation and then your interpretation as well. You really went to the feeling, the emotion aspect of the dream, that sense of numbing, which I'm going to be very honest. I've been awake for like 3 hours. It didn't even occur to me, like that sense of that element of numbing in the emotion. So interesting how we can all have different interpretations of a dream. They can all ring true or resonate with you. And then of course, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
And then,
I'm sorry, I know I'm interrupting.
No, please
say this. And I really wanted to impart this message in my book.
Yeah.
Even though I've jumped in and said like what I think about your dream, you are the
which I loved, by the way. Thank you.
But really, at the end of the day, you're the highest authority for your own, on your own dream, about your own dream. You know what a dream means for you. And the more you explore it, it's really your own wisdom that is most meaningful. I really believe that, right?
Yeah.
So if an interpretation doesn't sit well, then it's not for you. And actually, in lots of traditions, there's insight written into not sharing dreams with people who you don't trust and love, because the way we word things, the way we speak about our dreams is just as important as the dream itself, right? So to always kind of speak well of a dream, even if not well in like you bypassing things, but so that you give your dream a good resolution, I think is also helpful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So it sounds like too, it's almost an element of discernment for yourself too, of determining, and this applies to anything in your life, what resonates, what doesn't. Take what you need, sort of leave the rest. And that's interesting that obviously very much so applies to dreaming as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very fully, right? And I think the more it's very much like your intuition, the more you use it, the more you come to learn what it is for you, and I think it's, in some stages in your life, in some parts of our life, we really do need help, right? I think there's also a big narrative that like you're supposed, be your own guru or whatever the thing is. And I'm all for that, but I'm also that when you need help, you can reach out and get it. And you'll know that, we do, I think, innately know when time is.
Yeah. Does that element of dreaming, can that uncover maybe the areas in our life where we need a little bit of help or a little bit of that assistance? I know we've talked a lot about, how dreaming kind of paints this landscape of your psyche, or, this really kind of rounds out that element of your soul, that wholeness. But I'm curious, through our dreams, if we can be able to interpret those areas where we may need help, where in our waking life, we're just not maybe fully aware of it.
Right. It's actually what I love about dreams is because we all have blind spots, right, in our waking life, and things that wreak havoc. Maybe not, to different levels, but our dreams don't lie to us, and you can't outrun yourself in a dream. In your waking life, in our waking lives, we can do tons of things to avoid or to sort of just like, oh, I don't want to deal with that, so I'm not going to deal with it, really. Avoid it. But your dreams, in a way, they don't let you, because if you're avoiding it, you don't feel well, you don't feel good. And through going through the process, you end up in a space where it's actually real well-being. It's not well-being that you say one thing, but you feel another, and it's a process. It isn't it's not a destination. So I don't want anyone to think that there's this like end point, but yes, our dreams will definitely help us see things that we can't see in our waking lives the more we pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you shared earlier about when we were talking about somebody who wants to strengthen their recall of their dreams, you mentioned about writing in a journal, about that last dream that you had. And I'm curious, when we wake up in the mornings, if that's something you suggest doing, is like writing down our dreams, or what we can do to continue to strengthen that muscle, even as we're recalling those dreams, to maybe strengthen our ability to understand them. Do you recommend journaling about them? Is there anything else that you recommend people do? Because I just find this all to be so fascinating.
Yes, I highly recommend journaling. And in fact, I've actually just created one, which is going to come out, I think, only in November.
Wow. Okay, cool.
But I'll send you a link to it. But the reason I created it is because I wanted to make it easier for people to dream journal, right? Because I think a lot of the time, most people wake up, there isn't a lot of time, and people forego journaling. So in the book, what I've done is I've made checklists where people can jot down prominent symbols, right? So like with your dream, you'd write dad, Botox, doctor, but then you could also write the place or the emotion that you're experiencing in your waking life, so that if you don't have time right in the morning to write out the whole thing, you can come back to it. And what I love about dream journaling, as opposed to voice recording your dreams, right? Which is a tip I see all the time, and I really don't agree with it, just purely because of this. When you voice record a dream, it's very unlikely that you're going to go back and listen to 300
minutes, seconds, right? Yeah.
But if you write in a journal, it becomes so blatantly obvious the themes and the experiences that you contend with, from the heart space. And it's kind of there for you in black and white and in the symbols associated to it. And so if you kind of look over a period of time, it doesn't even need to be a very long period, like 6 months, you'll see that, you'll see what needs work on, but you also see at the same time, if you write out your dreams properly, that your dreams point you to the solution, the way out, the path through, right? And so like, for example, and I think this is one of the stories that I share in my book. I can't remember if it actually was or wasn't. I think it is. Okay. I wrote so many and then they got edited out and I can't always remember which ones are in.
Well, if it's not in the book, then people definitely need to listen to this for this bonus story for sure.
Exactly. Yes. So when I was going through my crazy phase in my 20s, I had wild dreams, but most of the time my dreams felt so frenetic and anxiety provoking. Like I didn't look forward to sleeping at all, because I knew that I very much remember my dreams, like whether I want to or not, I tend to remember them. So I would have these dreams where I'd be on boats or ships or planes or cars, but they would always be breaking down, or the sea would be really volatile. And I would never, ever be the person who was driving the car. I was never the captain of the ship. I was never the pilot of the plane. And I didn't click. I really didn't click at that experience. They seem like they're separate. But once I dream journaled, and I did that for a couple of months, I saw that I just wasn't at the helm of my own life. I was so out of control because I was not taking responsibility for myself. And so it was like this aha moment for me. And I was like, okay, I've really got to just face what I'm afraid of, and I have to move forward even if I'm uncomfortable. And the minute I decided to do that, my dreams the narrative completely changed.
Wow.
And now I know that if I have dreams similar in tone, which thank goodness I haven't had one of those dreams in a very long time, I know that I am really repressing or avoiding something that I should sort of own up to. So yeah, that's what I love about dream journaling. It helps in that way hugely.
Huge. I mean, talk about sort of like an untapped resource to allow you to sort of get to the root of your experiences, to get you to look at what you're not looking at. And then, as you shared too, to create this pathway forward. And I don't know in sort of modern day society, in sort of a Western culture, if we've even been instructed, taught, modeled, showed that, hey, you can actually use your dreams as this pathway to transformation, to resolution, to deeper understanding. Like, this is so cool to me that if you begin this process of strengthening this muscle, so to speak, and really dream journaling or working to understand and strengthen those muscles around the dreams, you can really find this element of resolution, understanding, and a path forward in your waking life. Because you're right, like you talked about this at the beginning, we really as a society sometimes think like, okay, you have your waking life and then your dreams, and the dreams are sort of inconsequential. No, they're like huge, and they play a huge role in all of this.
Right, massively. And I think we've kind of been robbed of that actually in the modern world. And at first, when I was writing my book, I thought, maybe it is just a Western thing. And then I started experiencing a lot of dreamers from other countries, and actually it's a modern thing. It's a modern thing. Even cultures that have deep roots in dreaming, I think modern people have sort of lost their connection to it. And so, yes, I think we need more dream teachers that can help teach people how to navigate their own psyches, and as well as higher order consciousness, because dreaming is also a gateway into experiencing greater consciousness. So, every night, because we have our regular dreams, our symbolic dreams, they're huge. They have huge insights for us, just waiting for us, right? But at the same time, we can then take our practice even further and do very active dreaming, or what I like to call deliberate dreaming. And that's what, most of us, I guess, in the Western world would call it like shamanic dreaming or vision questing, or like, I guess there are lots of names for it. But I don't think it doesn't need to be shrouded in so much mystery anymore.
Yeah. Is this kind of like lucid dream? Oops, sorry, I don't know what that echo was. Is this kind of like lucid dreaming?
Exactly. Lucid dreaming to me so lucid dream, for anyone who's listening, right? Just in case someone doesn't know, it's a dream in which you're having a dream, you're sound asleep, your body is still asleep, but in the dream you recognize like, whoa, I'm dreaming, right? So that's the broad definition of it. But there are many pathways to becoming lucid in a dream. And so one of them is like, you actually don't need to wait to fall asleep to go into lucid dreaming, but it's kind of like, I would say, a more it's a more expert level technique than it is right at the beginning. But our dreams every night, because they are so bizarre in nature most of the time, I really believe are calling us to lucid dream also. And in a way, there is a part of us that wants us to wake up and to be aware and conscious on a greater level, which lucid dreaming provides us. And lucid dreaming is like the tool that will get you to that point. It's like running.
So lucid dreaming essentially is you're in the dream and you're aware of that you're dreaming. So like, what does it feel like? Does it feel sort of like waking life, but kind of like different? Like in your experience, what has that felt like for you?
So the first few lucid dreams that I had were completely spontaneous, and I recognized that I was dreaming because I noticed like anomalies in the space. So I'd be at my sister's house, and then I recognized a pool was in the backyard, and at the time where she was living, there was no pool in the backyard. And then I was like, whoa, I'm lucid dreaming, like what's going on here?
Wow.
It feels exactly the same as waking life does, but the parameters of reality are different. So in a lucid dream, your intention and your words are very powerful, so you can say like, I want to fly, I want to move my hand through the wall, I want to meet my guides, and the dreamscape will alter, which is a very incredible experience. It's very tactile though. It's not like virtual reality. It's a very tactile experience.
Yeah. I love what you said a little bit before about how it's kind of like choose your own adventure. So it kind of just feels like while you're in this dream space and you're aware of it, you have the ability to choose where you go, how the dream moves, how you move with it. So how can this element, I guess, of deliberate or lucid dreaming, how can it help us, once we get to a point where we're able to access this and have these kinds of dreams?
So I think on the most fundamental level, lucid dreams help us because we become more conscious and aware in both realms of being, right? So for me, the dream world is not this like false place. I think we're dreaming all the time, actually, and our perception is what separates it. So on a fundamental level, for me, lucid dreaming is really about consciousness and awareness and carrying that energy through to waking life. But on a much more pragmatic level, right? In a lucid dream, you can attempt to heal something that you are struggling to heal in your waking life. And there are published research studies and scientific journals that show that this has an effect and can have an effect. There's some things that determine what makes it successful. Most of the time, it's the way you word things in the dream, right? Also increase your creativity and so much more, so much more, right? Like, for example, there's a woman that I talk about in my book, and she's quite an incredible lucid dreamer herself. Her name's, I think, Fariba Borganzona, and I might have pronounced her surname incorrectly, so just excuse me if I have done that, right? But so she is this avid lucid dreamer, and for 2 years, she dreams with the intention of meeting the like the sentient part of herself. I'm getting tongue-tied today.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, good. Yeah.
And so for 2 years, that's her intention. That's what she wants to do with her lucid dreams. And in her dream, she meets this Buddhist who she assumes, because in a lucid dream, it's like how you and I are talking, well, at least if we were face to face.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really tactile. So she wakes up and she assumes that this Buddhist is a meaningful projection of her own psyche, is like, her inner Buddhist, this great insight that, comes from within her. And something like 10 years later, she's at a conference doing a talk on a topic, and she meets the Buddhist. She meets the very same Buddhist. And he says to her, like, where do I know you from? Yeah, how amazing, right? And they recognize that they know each other from the lucid dreamscape place, and they go on to train together in both waking life and dream life. Wow. So lucid dreaming, right? It's amazing. It depends on your intention. You can have a lucid dream for fun. You can do it to try and heal depression. You can also do it for great spiritual pursuits. It depends on what you want, right?
Wow.
Like life, I guess.
This is so cool. And I know you, in the book, you walk people through how to begin to do this element of lucid dreaming. So people have to pick up the book for so many reasons, but this one in particular. I'm curious because that story just made me think about this. So if you have a dream with people in it that you know from your waking life, is it possible that they're more than just a symbol, that you're actually meeting one another in the dream in that moment?
I fully believe yes.
Wow. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. And I think that that's also the kind of thing that we lose in the modern world when we don't pay attention to our dreams. I think what happens, though, is that in the pursuit for most people is that we want these big, bold dream messages, much like asking for a sign in waking life, right? We want very meaningful things. And sometimes our lives don't call for that in that moment, right? Maybe they do, or maybe they don't. But yes, you can definitely meet guides, sentient others, I think past loved ones. I very much believe yes, you can.
Wow. Yeah. So fascinating, because I've had passed on loved ones visit me in dreams, and those have been really fun and comforting. And I've woken up from those feeling really, really good. And obviously there's an element of sadness too, but you feel really good. I really do believe that they can visit us in our dreams. And then I've had people who are still alive in the world and who have visited me in dreams, either to apologize or work something out that we just didn't do in waking life, which is also really fascinating. And I've woken up from those dreams thinking, did they just dream about me in their dream too? Like, would it be weird if I were to text them in this moment and be like, hey, this is weird, but I just had a dream about you last night. So really, really cool, fascinating stuff that's actually really happening.
Yeah. And I think that's also, it's so funny, right? Because that might be the very dream to get you to like resolve the conflict.
I was just thinking
friends,
that
right?
too. That might be the catalyst. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. I'm so curious about the connection between dreams and joy. In your experience, it has diving into dreams, understanding your dreams and really using them to facilitate your own understanding and development of your own higher consciousness and everything between. Has it led to greater joy for you? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think there's a beautiful connection.
I also do. And I think that, yes, I think dreaming is, as a pathway, is a joyful one, can be. But I wouldn't say that it's only joyful.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of sets up, I would imagine, for me, that sets me up for failure. So I wouldn't want to kind of pressurize myself in that way. But yes, it is a joyful path. And the more you do it, right, it's much like intuition, because you're not in resistance with yourself. The more you pay attention to your dreams, the less resistant you are towards yourself. Because when you're dreaming, it's you and this great mystery that gives you dreams. So the more you pay attention to it, it's like you've gone, okay, cool, I'm listening, I'm paying attention now. Speak to me, tell me what I need to know. And that's incredibly joyful and fun and amazing. And it's very much like when you're in your waking life and you get synchronicity, or you ask for a sign and it comes very quickly, because for me, it's such a joyful experience, but it's also like a meaningful one. And then there's so much reverence for, the way we are in the world and the fact that we get to even be here.
Yeah.
And that for me is joyful, but imagine, I don't know if everyone would feel like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, as you've been along this journey, as you've written your book and now you're preparing to share it, is there anything that you feel like you've really learned about yourself along the way? Because obviously this is a very deeply introspective journey, but I'm curious about that element of, anything you really learned about yourself along the way that actually maybe surprised you a little bit.
There's so many things that came up whilst I wrote this book, and I had two very big dreams whilst I wrote the book. The one was this complete nightmare, and I dreamt that I saw a woman hanging and someone had cut her, it might have been in the morning here, but someone had sliced her stomach and her womb. And I woke up, and then the next day I was speaking to someone who I didn't know, who had just moved into the sort of same area I was living in. And she was a very, very staunchly sort of focused woman, and I told her I was writing a book on dreams, and her reaction was incredibly negative. It was that kind of feeling of feeling persecuted. And I knew that my dreams, I love writing. I would say I'm a writer more than I am a speaker. And I love teaching. I love doing one-on-one things. But so I think that dream came to me to really sort of show me okay, this is a deep-seated fear. I even feel uncomfortable talking about it.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
Right? How deep it can run. So that kind of, it did surprise me, but also prepared me in a way for what I needed to look at. And I just also had very amazing experiences writing the book, where I was writing, I think, about getting a higher perspective. And at the time I was on a farm, and as I was typing the words, this eagle flew past the window, and just had, so it was such an incredible experience writing the book in itself. But then loads of times at the same time where I just wanted to just check my laptop,
and throw it out.
Yeah.
Wow. So interesting.
So definitely. I think it takes courage to be creative, quite frankly. So that definitely came up for me in my writing.
A lot of courage to write, a lot of courage to share, a lot of courage to share that story about the dream. So thank you for that. I think we often have dreams or nightmares like that, where it's really unveiling or unmasking a very deep-seated fear that then you have the opportunity to sort of work out through putting yourself out there in a brand new way, through writing a book, through talking about it and all the things that come with it. I would love to ask you the question I ask everybody that comes on Seek the Joy podcast. And that is, what is your biggest dream? Which is so appropriate for this conversation. But what is your biggest dream?
My biggest dream is that I would hope that for me, like that I would leave work that helps other dreamers wake up. That's my biggest dream. Like I feel like if I've done that, I've done well.
Is there anything, you've talked about this a couple of times throughout our conversation, but if there's one big message for people out there about dreams, about that impact that you really hope to leave, what would you tell people? What is that, like one maybe big message about our dreams? And
I guess I would say your dreams are helping you. Listen.
Okay, mic drop on that. Thanks, everybody. Beautiful. Your dreams are trying to tell you something. Listen. And I think too, like part of it is, having that courage in that moment, like you shared before about listening to them as they come to you. Yeah.
Right. And knowing that your mind is not, your dreams are not out to get you. I think that's also sort of valuable, especially in our modern times, where it can feel like that,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Athena, I have loved this conversation. I have learned so much. I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. We've talked about dreams. We've talked about lucid dreaming. There's so much good stuff in here. So where can everybody find you, connect, buy your new book, which comes out at the end of August, and this is going to air in September. So by then it'll be available for everybody. It's called Alchemy of Your Dreams, A Modern Guide to the Ancient World of Lucid Dreaming. So where can everybody find you and your book and everything else in between?
So my book is where you would find it anywhere, in any great store, and it's available actually all over the world. So in the UK, the US, Australia, South Africa, it's available. And online, I'm best found at my website. I send out a very good monthly email, and I'm much more interactive on my email and my website, which is www.athenalaz.com. And then on Instagram, Athena_Laz.
Perfect. All right. So everything will go in the show notes. We'll make it so easy for everyone to find you, connect, and learn more. And just thank you for this really fun, beautiful conversation on dreaming. So thank you, Athena.
Thank you.
Seek the Joy podcast is a production of Seek the Joy Media and created, produced, and hosted by me, Sydney Weiss. You can tune into all of our episodes on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're enjoying the show, hit follow and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Make sure to join the community, join the conversation on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are at Seek the Joy Podcast everywhere. And don't forget, you can actually watch today's new episode and all of our episodes on our brand new YouTube channel. Click that link in the show notes to subscribe and tune in. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you right back here next week for another Seek the Joy Tuesday.